This is Market Makers. I'm Scarlett Fu. In its heyday, Detroit was a place where major musical acts like Eric Clapton, Pink Floyd, and B.B. King all performed, and they all played at the Grande Ballroom. Today, like a lot in Detroit, the ballroom is in ruins. A documentary called Louder Than Love explores the city's musical past.
Grande Ballroom, you know, it changed the face of music.
Whatever happened in Detroit in those days relative to rock and roll music was centered on the Grande Ballroom. Case closed.
The dream of musical emotion and outrage and uninhibitedness and just brutal honesty by any stretch of the imagination is alive and well all these years later. And the Grande Ballroom played a big role in solidifying that for me.
Detroit's Fillmore was the Grande. That was it.
With us now is the filmmaker, Tony D'Annunzio, who is a Detroit native. Tony, we talk about the musical past of Detroit with the Grande Ballroom. What is Detroit's musical present?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on. Detroit's musical presence today, it's a very vibrant community. Detroit's music scene has been, I don't think there's a period in history that Detroit hasn't been in the forefront with music. Going back to the late 50s with Jack Scott, and then all through Motown and with Bob Seger and up to Madonna and stuff like that. So right now there's a big local scene with a lot of great music that's coming out of Detroit. And there's also a big presence with national acts coming through. They just had a big festival here just recently, the Orion Fest, which has plans to do that on an annual basis. So Detroit's got a very vibrant scene.
So how do you take that vibrancy and that culture and translate that into an economic revival, which is what the city so desperately needs?
Sure. Well, you got to remember, just like the film my film, Louder Than Love, that period was during the late 60s, during the racial tension and the racial riots that were going on here in Detroit. So sometimes the motivation is, you know, in what's going on around you. So maybe that'll be something that'll give people more creative edge to produce music and to get out there, you know. Detroit is down, obviously, with the bankruptcy that's going on. But, you know, I think the creative part of Detroit has never left. So, you know, let's hope that, that this pushes forward to help music be a little bit stronger here in Detroit.
Yeah, I've definitely heard how periods of economic downturn can inspire musicians and lead to a lot more creativity. You mentioned the Orion Music and More Festival there in Detroit. How well attended was it? How many people did it bring from outside the city?
I can't speak to how many people outside of the city. It was the first concert that they've had on Belle Isle, which is a park here in Detroit, an island between Detroit and Canada on the Detroit River. And I know it was very well attended. They had some national acts like Metallica and Red Hot Chili Peppers. And so from what I understand, the estimates were somewhere in the 20,000 to 30,000 per day kind of thing. So enough to inspire them to do it again next year and to keep it as an ongoing festival here in the Detroit, you know, in the city of Detroit.
Well, we actually spoke with your governor, Governor Rick Snyder of Michigan, earlier on the program on Bloomberg Television. And even he talked about sort of the cultural revival of Detroit. Listen to what he told us.
There's a creative force. It's a basic market. Detroit is the value place to be in the United States as we resolve this bankruptcy issue.
So clearly there's a legacy there, but Tony, population growth is a big problem and a big challenge for Detroit. Sure. How do you encourage even more artists and more creative types to come from other parts of the country into this, what you have already described as a hotbed for musicians and for other cultural institutions?
Sure. Well, the inspiration, I think that comes from within. And, you know, to have a great place like the city of Detroit, I mean, you talk of Detroit in the terms of, you know, it's such a large landmass. The downtown area itself, that corridor area of Detroit, very vibrant area. They're bringing in a new stadium for the Detroit Red Wings. There's a lot of vibrancy within that first 10 miles from the river out, and you know, there's a lot of artistic and creative things going on right in the city. With the different festivals. I'd like to think that my film has helped inspire people to start doing projects like that on their own and seeing to get the story out there that there's other things going on in Detroit besides what the nation's hearing about the bankruptcy.
And Tony, how cheap are the rents?
How cheap is the rent in Detroit?
Because that always helps.
Yeah, I know that from what I understand in the city itself, that the apartment occupancy rate is already at like 90%. I don't know what it is outside of the, the city itself.
Right.
I know there's a lot of vacant housing.
Sure.
I'm pretty much, I'm a filmmaker from Detroit that was telling this great story about the Grande Ballroom in order to just show the rest of the world how important the music scene from Detroit has been,
right,
and still is.
Tony, you mentioned some native Michigan acts like Madonna. We're partial to her, but also Eminem. Do you see them playing a role in trying to revive Detroit?
I know that there are certain Detroiters that have been giving back to the city. From what I understand, I just read that Jack White, a Detroiter, helped pay for some of the costs at a venue here in the Detroit area to get that back on its feet. So there's things like that that are going on that people are giving back to it. I'd like to think that Detroit stays in your heart even though you leave the city. So we'll see how it works out.
Tony, would it be a mistake for the city to consider auctioning off some of these cultural institutions like the Detroit Institute of the Arts in order to raise money through its bankruptcy?
Yeah, that's a real tough call. The Detroit Institute of Art is a wonderful museum. The film theater that's there, my film just played there last week and did really well there. I would hate for it to have to get to that point. I don't know the background on how that works out from a bankruptcy standpoint. It would be sad to lose some of the great art that's been housed and collected here in the city. I'd like to think that they could find some other ways of doing it, but it's so early in this bankruptcy, it's hard to tell exactly which way they're going to go with it.
Well, there's a long road ahead, certainly. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Tony D'Annunzio, filmmaker of the documentary Louder Than Love. And the Grande Ballroom, Sarah, was a venue for rock bands like MC5, Iggy and the Stooges, Alice Cooper, Ted Nugent,
Who
and
knew there were so many musicians from Detroit? I mean, we knew Motown and everything else, but to hear the list, it sounds like all
impressive,
great.
isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, not just Madonna and Eminem.
The White Stripes, it's amazing.
It continues.
All right, Market Makers is back also.